From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those Grid Life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the
have
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
Dominating with Dawson.
Setting up a pass.
Oh, let's do that one.
I know, Ben. I say the word pass, and Ben's like, yeah, let's do that. I want to do that again. Okay. Setting up a pass. How do you determine where you have an advantage and disadvantage to pass in the best spot possible, and whether you have the right to pass? All right. Welcome back to Dominating with Dawson, reporting live from the rental RV broadcast booth / kitchen / restaurant / bunk beds, flopping house, lots of grapes. If anybody's here 3 weeks from now when they hear this topic, Mr. Dawson, I believe the subject that is most dear to your heart that we ever cover. Let's talk passing. We've got a question related to passing. Let me read it for you. Let's see. Setting up a pass, responsibility between the two, whether you have the right to pass, where not to pass, setting it up, making sure the pass sticks, all that good stuff. Nothing to talk about there.
You know, I love passing, and we haven't even mentioned where we are today. We're at PittRace racetrack, where I've never even been before. But guess what I did today?
What did you do?
Pass. No, I mean it's a new track, and I was getting used to it. But of course, I had to go throw a pass on some people out here, and it's always fun. The funnest part of the game for me is getting to pass people and setting it up and driving around people on track when they don't want me to.
So, if you were to talk about a pass, let's say it's a car that you're not appreciably faster than, but you're faster than. It's, you're kind of close. Those are the fun ones. The ones where you just blow by, those are, even I can do those. Not that it happens very often with our cars, especially our car that's parked on jack stands right now, but that's a different story. How do you determine if you're behind them for, a lap or so? How do you determine where, or maybe even if you determine it by the car or the driver, where do you think you have the advantage?
One advantage you have when you're working your way up to pass somebody is you keep getting to see how they're driving, what they're doing well, and what they're not doing as well as you are as you run up to them. sometimes that process is really quick and you have a fast closing speed. You don't have a lot of time to think about it. But if it's the kind of situation you're describing, Bill, where the cars are fairly similar on pace and capability and both being driven fairly well, but you're still catching up to that other car, where do you seek out an advantage that's going to be big enough to pull a pass that's going to stick? Have I summed up what you're looking for pretty well?
Yeah, I think it's another reason why you would always keep your eyes up and look far ahead. Miss Jen, when you're passing people,
Can I do pass people, Bill?
let's assume. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the future when you pass someone.
Pass people.
This is future Jen's problem. So if you're passing somebody, why is she laughing still? Anyway, if you're passing somebody, how do you make it clear that you're passing, and how do you think about the responsibility for making the pass successful and complete and safe?
So on the few rare occasions where I did pass somebody,
Take a break.
I went and made myself present.
Yeah.
So I presented myself and
How?
so I got close to them. I kind of ran up on them and kind of went out to the side, kind of indicating I wanted to pass them. So sometimes you'll get some acknowledgement, sometimes you won't. So and then it's just finding a place on the track where you can find that distance. And sometimes I struggle more with people that are probably closer to speed to me and getting past them. So that's that. I could use some help with that, Mr. Dawson. Help me out with that one.
All right. That's a tough one, and it's one that you kind of think back in my head to previous races. And in general, if your times are fairly similar, but you're running up on somebody, you're still doing it better than they are. And it may not be an obvious solution where you're going to stick the pass, but if you're kind of back there for a couple laps, you're going to start to see, oh, in this section, I really run up on them, but I can't really capitalize. But those are the kind of places where you want to start identifying a pattern like, oh, I'm better at this person in this place. What am I doing here? I'm braking. Or maybe I'm accelerating. Maybe I've got more power than this person. I'm able to kind of walk away. So in my mind, I want to start thinking about places on the track where let's just say where our advantage is in braking. So we always run up on them, but then we can't do anything about it. So I want to start thinking about all the different places on track where I'm braking, and even the places where I haven't noticed an obvious advantage. You know that you're braking better than this person in this one spot. So where else can I press that advantage around the track? So I want to put more and more pressure on them. If I know that I'm braking better than them, I'm going to start trying to be closer to them in some other braking zones. So even if that means I might leave my braking a little bit later in some of these places than I have been, just to kind of roll up on them a little harder, because you know you can do it. You know you're better than them on the brakes. And there are even times where you might want to kind of roll up right next to them. Even if you're not going to try to pass them, you can still get in there side by side with them to let them know you want it. So that's another part of presenting yourself. Sometimes just running right door to door, even if you know that once y'all go into the corner, you're going to kind of pull back and let them have single file. There were plenty of times where I just put myself out there just because. Same way with interviewing for a job. If you never interview for a promotion at your work, nobody's ever going to know you want it. I'm interviewing for this promotion in a race right now. I want this. This is going to happen. So here's one way it might happen is me being next to you in this corner. It's not going to happen this time. I'm going to let it go. But you know what I mean? You just kind of keep finding places where you can press that advantage more and more and more as you identify. And the more time you spend behind that car, the more chances you're going to have to see, I do this a little bit better. I do this a little bit better. And the more you can aggregate and put those things together in a lap, eventually you're going to get enough built up that you can go buy them.
So the other thing too on passing is that especially if you don't have a large a group of cars that are on the track anyway, it's passing offline. So the car in front of you most likely is driving the line as best that they can. So even if you're coming up behind them to make the pass, it can be a very, very quick acknowledgement between you two, because the person in front of you is, if they are experienced, is expecting you to pass offline. So whatever that looks like on track, you can, not so much like a blow by, because I don't think you really can do like a blow by, but that's kind of the expected predictability of when you pass a car. So sometimes making acknowledgement with experienced drivers can be done depending on the position of where you are on the track. But if you're like on the straightaway, you are expected to pass offline. And not come up on the inside or just anything that's very, very unexpected. Also, there's trail passing or train passing, which is another, is that if there's an opening and you have a bunch of cars that are going through, just hop in line with them and the opening's already cast. So you just kind of follow through. And that's just another version where you just don't really even have to think about it.
I think I'm proud of it. We'll see how this comes out. But do you ever break somebody who's in front of you and they just surrender because you've been on them for a while and you're close and they just like pull off and point by and they're just like, I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
If that surrender takes several laps and you're just wearing them down and worrying them to death, you're doing it right, but you're doing a slow-mo version of what you want to do a little bit faster. So it's sort of right. Like I want to pull up hard enough on somebody where they just point their finger out the window right away. Just based on how fast you caught me, I'm just gonna let you go. But I mean, I don't ever expect a point by. When I get one, I'm always like, oh, great, I'll take it. But I'm always prepared to do it raw dog. I'm prepared to get in there. I'm prepared to get in there and make it stick however I need to.
That comment goes back to our pre-podcast discussion.
No, and not like the recent fad of men calling it raw dogging on a plane, where they go sit on a plane and just stare at the seat back in front of them. Not that kind of raw dog. Anyway, but when Vicky's talking about passing offline and that being the expectation for getting a pass done. Also recall that if you pulled up on this turkey fast enough where it's obvious that you're going to pass them, you're going to be able to do it by being a little bit offline. They're going slow enough where you being offline somewhere to get the pass done, not going to make that big a difference. You pulled up on them fast enough, that's not going to be a real big deal. And they're likely either going to come out of that turn next to you or in your mirrors either way. So even if you're offline and it feels a little bit out of your comfort zone, you're probably going fast enough to make it stick. There are cases where I'm not sure if we're ready to get to it or not, where it's hard to make it stick.
Well, I was going a different direction before making it stick. I was going. Remember a certain video that we shared with each other about interclass passing and the responsibility of the passing faster car and the responsibility of the slower passing car? We were watching, I think it was a GTO versus a GTP. You remember? We watch a lot of videos. Anyway, if you ever saw some of our text chains, it's kind of scary. Remember the guy who came across and just cut the guy right off?
Sure.
Yeah. So setting one across the bow, I believe, is one of the Lemon's ways of putting it. The responsibility for the safety is really the person who has the most vision, and the most person who has the most vision is the passing car. The passing car can see everything. But when you're passing, just because you have passed the car most of the way does not give you the right to get back into the line and cut across.
Interesting that you say that. Very timely, because as I would agree that you can't if you pull a pass offline and you have to snap right back in line before you can do your breaks or do anything. If you can't complete the pass going into the corner side by side with somebody offline, then you have to snap back in front of them, nearly chopping their nose off. I don't call that a completed or safe pass. And that was a hot topic coming out of the most recent WRL race at Watkins Glen. There were a lot of people complaining about, faster. Oh, so you're talking about that's the one. So that's the GTO. Yeah. So there were GP2 cars that were complaining, like E46 is complaining about getting chopped off by like low level IMSA cars, like GT4 cars, I guess we're talking about, like those Mercedes AMG cars, stuff like that. That was the race, and there's been a lot of videos coming out of that. Of course, all the WRL people are like, stop sharing these videos, but I mean, they're out there. I mean, it's not something that only happens in their series, but just there was a preponderance of it in this most recent race that they had, and so the videos keep coming out. But the complaints are, but between a lot of the lower class cars, that these fast cars, sure, they can blow by me, but they don't have the driving confidence to finish the pass on the way in with us side by side. They have to try to snap back right over in front of me, and while it's predictable and expected, I might still be planning to brake later than they were. So they may snap right in front of me, then brake sooner than I was going to. Screws my lap up, I might hit them. So it's not safe to pull a pass and then snap right back over in front of somebody in the brake zone. You got to be prepared to flow in there together and then sort it out through the corner and on the way out. Is that what you're talking about? So yeah, that's been a hot topic lately in that one series, and it's not something I see happen a lot in other series, but it's certainly a kind of pass that can come up as somebody's got enough pace to pull the pass, but doesn't have enough skill to do it unless they're perfectly on their optimal line, which I don't think counts as a complete pass.
So going back to our first ever season, our third ever race, this happened to Miss Jen at New Hampshire, where somebody was passing her. She was the middle car of three cars, and they chopped her front and ping ponged her into the second car, so we now had a 3-car accident. Uh, it it really affected you for 2 years to get into that, so it's not good for your fellow drivers.
No, I was relatively a new driver then. Yeah, it was my second race. So yeah, it really kind of took me. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, it affected me for quite a while. I mean, not that I was afraid to get in the car, but I drove a lot differently after that. Like I was driving a lot more in my mirror, like and probably
You were more concerned about getting out of the way.
right, exactly. It changed how I drove completely. So yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
If it really was.
So Ben, we didn't talk about keeping the pass, because sometimes making the pass is not always keeping the pass.
Well, yeah, and I think before you even get to earning a pass that takes a long time to make and then keeping it, we haven't really touched fully on like the responsibility of the people passing in general. Most race organizations are going to tell you that if you're making the pass, like you mentioned, touched on that, you probably have the biggest vision of what's happening, and you know what's about to happen more so than the car you're about to pass does. They don't know what your plan is. That is the responsibility for the safety of the pass is mostly on the driver making the pass, but there are also things that if you're being passed, you should do. And a lot of times they'll cover this in a rookie meeting for a series, and it may not be the exact same expectation for every series. So anytime you're new to a series, I would recommend going to the rookie meeting, even if you're an experienced racer in other series. But typically, the series would want the car that's being passed to stay on what's a pretty typical racing line and let the other car that's passing be off the line and make the pass offline. So those are kind of responsibilities. It's a responsibility of the car making the pass, not to chop the nose off the other car, not to hit them, not to try to block them if they come back. You know, there are a number of things you don't want to do when you're trying to make a pass, and there are another number of things you don't want to do when you're being passed. You don't want to, try to get out of the way when you're being passed. I've had somebody wreck the crap out of me doing that when I was trying to make a pass on somebody, and they thought, "Oh crap, let me get out of the way," and they just ran right into me. It ended up being a pretty dangerous wreck as it happened. It was when it was scary. I already had that one kid when that happened. I was like, "I got a kid," as it's happening. So it's important to pass and kind of keep it orderly. So those are the kind of the responsibilities as I view them on pass. Bill's nodding. I'm not handing the microphone back to him. We have one microphone, and I'm just going to hold it for a second and pontificate. But we also talked about the right to pass. When do you have the right to pass? What do you?
Yeah, well, the right to pass. When the opportunity arises, I guess. Right, when you see the opportunity, um, and everything kind of lines up. Yeah, sure.
You don't want to do it at the expense of the other driver. Like, I'm still a little fired up about Verstappen and Lando, but that's just me. You don't have to throw your car in late avenue, brake fast at the end as hard as you can, and lock up and slide into the guy and make them have to avoid you or the girl, whatever. It should be a relatively smooth, low, zero impact, low impact on time for both of you, or else you're, at least I'm talking non-sprint race. Sprint race, you kind of got to do what you got to do sometimes, but in an endurance race, it shouldn't impact either one of your laps very much.
I think as long as when you know that you can do it safely. And and we had talked about this before in other episodes that if somebody is behind you and say you're in like some S's or something, to just let them know somehow that you see them if they're presenting themselves. Like, I see you, I don't feel it's safe for you to pass me right now, but as soon as I can, it's okay. Like I'll move over, you go. So I'll give you the okay to go.
Yeah, I think it's great to give a wave in the car to acknowledge that you see somebody coming. Look at that. There's somebody coming at the door. Who's in there? Maybe it's a special guest. Hey, what's up, special guest Scott McMichael rolling the door. We're here talking about passing for a dominating with Dawson. Come on in. What are your thoughts about when you have the right to pass, Scott? These guys had a very successful day today at the Lucky Dog race with their old ass 80s T-Bird with a 302 in it, and 80s, early 80s, like chicken picking that. No, the Burt Reynolds movie, the Turkle chicken. You know what I'm talking about. The Burt Reynolds movie, that generation of T-Bird and a 302. And they came in second in their class and seventh overall. So they did some passing today. When did you feel like you had the, do you ever feel like you had the right to pass? He brought that up. I've never thought about it before.
I feel like if I'm alongside you and I wasn't there before, I've earned that right. And you know, if I'm still behind your B pillar, I gotta be ready. I gotta get out of it if I have to. But if I could look over and see your face like left, you know, side to side, I earned that, you know. And you don't have to give me the whole track, but you got to give me a lane.
Car is there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
That's how I view it.
I think that's right too. I think you know you kind of earn the right if you got the pace and you're rolling up to somebody, you know you can get it done. But then you have the right once you can do it safely, like you're talking about. We were also about to talk about those long earned passes, those ones that take forever, take a few laps to roll up to and get it done, and then making it stick. And you can talk about this forever. I mean, I'm a Miata guy from way back, so that's the story of our life is trying to roll up, trying to execute a pass because you've always got better braking, you've always got better cornering, but everybody else has motor. And how do you make that work? And in my opinion, a lot of times it involves a little bit of peacocking. I'm gonna pop my car out. I'm gonna keep showing you the nose. I'm gonna keep showing you here's how it might happen. I'm gonna roll in next to you a couple times. Preening, that's the word I was looking for. I want to be strutting my pace a little bit. I'm gonna show my nose. I'm gonna show how I want this to happen. But I'll tell you, we raced AER this summer, and there was a 944 in the pits. And AER has classes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the fastest, 1 is the slowest. And I saw this old 944, and just in my mind, I thought, oh, it's a class 1 or class 2 car. I just didn't clock the huge wing on the back, and I didn't walk around and look under the hood. I just said in my mind, I'm walking around Friday, I was like, oh, it must be a class 2 car. And as the race got started and I got going, I'm out there passing. I went to the lead of our class, and I'm starting to pass cars that are further up, like higher classes, and I cannot catch this 944. I'm thinking we must be coming around and catching the tail end of the field, not realizing it's a class 5 car. So they got tons of motor, but I got tons of local knowledge. I live at that track. And it was clear to me that these people didn't from the way they were driving, but they were straight away in me everywhere. And so I finally pull up and I use a slower car as a pick and get around them, and they pass me right back down the backstretch, which fair enough. I understand you got it. Then I pass them back. I pass them again down at the end of the backstretch and down through Hogpen. And then they pass me back on the front straightaway. And I'm in the car going like, I'm waving my hand like, what are you doing? Like it's already happened one time. So then down in the way into turn 1, I'm like, I got to make this stick because you got to kind of build a gap even through making the pass. They can still get you back. So you're still trying to build a gap even as you pull the pass off. So it was another couple times I think I had to pass, but one of that lap or the next lap, I passed them down into turn 1 so hard that swallowed their own eyeball pretty much, and made it stick and made it obvious that this isn't a negotiation. This is what's happening, and they just went further and further back in my mirrors. But it was funny pulling up my car. I didn't expect to be that fast. I'm just baffled. Why is this old ass 944? I can't even get anywhere close to it. So that was my most recent example of trying to pull a pass off where it just takes forever to get up to them, and then even after you pull the pass, you lose it a few times until you cement the pass hard enough to make it stick.
So it's kind of like the old, Mustang versus Miata or Camaro or Mustang or Corvette, doesn't matter. It's the power car versus the cornering car, braking car. And those are the ones that are hard, and getting them to stick, a lot of times here at PittRace, while we're at PittRace, you pass them going through the S's or through the complex after the S's 12, 13, 14. And then you're just praying the whole way down the back lane that you're just like, oh, please stick, don't catch me. And then you hit turn 16, the little kink right before the flip around 17, 18. And if they don't have you by then, you're good. But if they get you right before then and it's in the braking zone, you're like, oh, got to do this again because they're going to motor you down the front straight, which is shorter than the way back straight. And then you got to sit there and usually when you got this low horsepower car, 5, 6 is not the place because you're going to be going up that hill. And then it's just like, oh, I got to redo this and I got to set it up and it'll take me another 2 laps to pass you. But once I pass you this time, you're going about. And, it's not that you've ever had this problem, Scott.
Well, I was actually going to say I was going to go through the other half of that coin, right? So I've got the straightaway speed. And when we let the big dog eat, we reel these guys right back in who passed us in the twisty bits. But it's an endurance race. and I've got to take care of my car. I got to take care for my teammates so that the next guy's got brakes, next guy's got tires. And so a lot of times I'll end up feathering the throttle around the start finish line here and staying offline so that these people know I'm not going to try to dive bomb you into one. You passed me, but I'm not wasting time on the straightaway and staying tucked in behind you and losing ground to the guy behind us, right? I want to keep what I can still keep. And actually, my bigger frustration comes in when I'm trying to pass some Camaro that's got the horsepower but doesn't handle as good as me, and it's like, my strength is no longer my strength. I can't rely on my good old, get a good start on the straightaway and I'll outpower you by the time we get to the kink. Now I actually have to work for it, and that at this track, I can remember being stuck behind a cow painted Trans Am or Camaro for many laps. And every time we'd come up out of the last turn coming towards start finish, they'd open up a little gap as we got out of that corner. And then I'd catch right back up through all the twisty bits.
Vicky's got this smirky smile like it's Alan's Mustang. There's no way that Mustang is motoring his car. So.
Crap marrow. I was just thinking about, I only have a couple of things else I would like to say about passing that I didn't say yet. I think it's easier and I think it's easier, it's safer to pass people on the way out of a corner if you can manage it. Because if you pull up on somebody, it's because you're doing it better and faster than they are. You're gonna pass them. You didn't come out of nowhere. They didn't just start suddenly forget how to drive. You pull up because you're doing it better and faster than they are. So you're gonna make that pass stick. And if that's the case, you can probably set yourself up on the way into a corner because they're probably doing it bad enough that you can set yourself up on the way into a corner, even if you got to eat a little dirt on the way in to give yourself a faster exit. So sometimes you can kind of cheat the system and build yourself a faster exit and motor by them on the way out because they're likely not doing it that great on the way in or the way out. So something to think about. I'm always thinking about, can I get this pass done on the way out rather than trying to stuff it and go too wide through a corner when I don't have to, or try to go in the brakes with somebody because I might mess up breaking offline. They might mess up breaking in the normal line with me in there. I just feel like I have more options and more control if I can get the pass done on the way out. If I can just build a better speed from the apex off and hopefully snooker them on the way out.
It's kind of rare for me to do a past turn in. I don't even want to. And then we're talking an endurance race. We're not talking a sprint race or anything like that, because I can get you in a better spot. And like if I'm passing Scott, or if I'm passing God, like this is going to happen. If I'm passing Ben, I'm gonna trust you enough to do that, but I don't trust everybody to do that. So I'm not going to do that. So I can choose a better spot later somewhere else. But when you pass me again on the long straightaway, I'm not going to be happy. So it'll be fun. Do we get everything?
I've probably said all the stuff I could think of at this moment.
Now Ben Dawson lies on his own podcast where he says he's talked everything he ever wants to talk about for passing. We all know that's a lie. But Scott, thank you for your first walk in, first live podcast at the Dominating with Dawson. And who knows? We might have another one. If Scott's still here, the ordering sequence of this recording. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.